Welcome in, everybody, to one of my favorite times of the NFL season. We got Playoff Bestball coming in starting this weekend. We got Wild Card weekend ahead. A lot of fun to be had. I appreciate you guys all being here. Let's jump into the top 5 biggest mistakes that Playoff Bestball players make and how to fix them. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? Here we go with mistake number 1 that players are making in Playoff Bestball is not paying attention to the playoff bracket. And this is something that I think people do. They don't pay attention to it either during, like, when the bracket is actually set and before that. I think you should still think about it a little bit when it's not set. But obviously, once it is set, you should be building teams that have that advantage, because there's going to be teams out there that built a full Green Bay, Philadelphia, Buffalo team that are going to be pretty, not very live to win, just because they're going to lose like 4 players in the first round or 5 or something like that, guaranteed. That's hard to deal with. So I think that's something that you need to use to your advantage now that we do know the brackets, and try not to build teams that are just basically, oh, well, I'm going to lose 3 players in the first round no matter what happens in this situation, because I took 6 players from the same game environment. Which you think, well, this will help you get to the first round. Well, then it's going to hurt your chance to get to the next round, and that matters also. So you got to think about these things, like, how do I get to the next round, and how am I going to be strong in the next round as well? And that's the teams you want to build. And that's an example of this team I have out to the right that I built. It's a Philadelphia, Buffalo, KC team, and Buffalo, KC were most likely going to be the 1-2 seeds. They ended up being that, and they can't play each other until the conference finals at the latest. So, like, if Philadelphia makes the Super Bowl and the other side is the conference championship of Buffalo, KC, I guaranteed have at least, 3 Eagles and 4 Buffalo, or I have 3 Eagles and 3 Chiefs in the finals. And that's a live team. That's 6 players. They have a quarterback and at least 1 running back, 2 receivers, and 1 flex. That's a live team that could win me the whole entire tournament. That's what you want to think about. It's like, can this team have a full roster? And am I sacrificing early players just because I'm playing the same game environment in the first round? So that's what you want to avoid. Like, another couple safe pairings that I like to use is the 1 and the 3 seed. So the 1st seed and the 3rd seed can't play each other until the conference championship either, because the 2 and 3 are going to be the ones that meet most likely. So if that happens, then you have your Ravens, you have your Chiefs, and you have your Lions on the other side, or you have your Eagles on the other side. That's a strong team as well. So just think about those things. At least think about the bracket. And if you want to take it one step further, I think thinking about the second round matchups is also important. Like, hey, I don't really want to pair Bills and Ravens, because they're going to play in the second round. One of those are getting knocked out, and then I have a much weaker team in the next round, or I lose some strength for the third round, which is the conference championships. That's not ideal. So you want to, if you can, you want to build teams that give you a chance to make 10 live players in the AFC Championship, NFC Championship round. This team could do that if Philadelphia, Buffalo, KC are all in the game, all in the tournament still, which is very possible. That is a team that is 10 players live. That's going to be super strong and have a very high chance of getting to the next round, because a lot of the teams you go up against in that round are going to have 1 player alive, 2 players alive, 3 players alive, maybe 4, 5, maybe 6. Not many are going to have 10 like this team does, especially when you have the bye week for the Chiefs. So I think just building teams smartly and trying to think about the bracket, and just not just like discounting it, like, oh, whatever, I'll just want to get to the first round. That's going to really hurt your teams. And obviously you might get through the first round. You might get, 80% of your buy-in back, but that's not the point of the tournament. You want to try to win. That's the whole idea. And winning the tournament is, done when you actually think about the bracket. You got to pay attention to it. That's my first tip. The second mistake I see a lot of players make is building teams that are just way too safe, just playing it super safe, and not giving yourself a chance to win at all. So you will need 5 players in the Super Bowl, at minimum, to win the tournament. Most likely you might want even more than that, and a lot of players will have more than that. So if you're building a team that's just way too thin to give yourself even a shot at winning, then it's just not worth building that team. You have to think about that when you're building your teams. Obviously, there's times where you get sniped in your quarterback. It's very tilting. I get it. But you want to build a team that has a very strong chance at if the things play out the way your team is built, you have a chance to win the tournament. And that is all that matters in this tournament. It doesn't getting your money back in the first round isn't the most important thing, which obviously sometimes you have no other options, but I would say you definitely always do have one option at least, even if it's not pretty. Maybe you have to stack Denver, maybe you have to stack Green Bay. There's worse options than that. And I think giving yourself a chance to win is obviously always preferred and ideal. This team on the left is a team that I found, obviously not going to show their name, but they built a team with Buffalo, Washington, Green Bay, 3 quarterbacks. That's a little bit too much. I probably wouldn't even take another quarterback with Josh Allen. You can, for the sake of getting unique. It's not awful. Maybe I could seek Josh Allen in a round if Love has a big game, but I just think it's not worth it to take 3, especially if you're already taking Josh Allen in the first round with the first pick. Then you take the Rams and Washington. Okay, we'll have 2 Washington pieces. That's fine. I have Zay, Addison, McLaurin, Kincaid, Jaden Reed. That is 5, 6 teams there. We got Buffalo, we got Washington, we got Minnesota, we got Baltimore. That's 4. Green Bay's number 5, Rams number 6. That's 6 teams at least in that team. It's just really hard to win a tournament of these sizes with a team that thin. Obviously, it's probably got a good shot of getting out of round 1. It's going to get a solid receiving score. It's going to get a solid quarterback score. It's going to get a solid running back score. That's probably likely. It might get through the first round, but at worst, you're losing a lot of players. And, off the top of my head, that none of these teams match up in the first round other than Rams, Minnesota. But, most likely in most outcomes, you're probably sitting at 6 players left on this team, after the first round. Green Bay's probably going to lose. Washington most likely is favored to lose. Minnesota, Rams, you're losing one there. That's just a hard team to get through. And even if you do make it to the finals, let's just say it's a Buffalo-Washington Super Bowl, which is a team. He has 1 quarterback at least. He has 1 running back. He has 1 receiver, 2 receivers. That's 4 players live. You can't use both quarterback scores. So that's 4 players live in the Super Bowl. You're already not able to win the tournament with that amount. And if it's Buffalo, Washington in the Super Bowl, don't you think there's going to be a team with Josh Allen, James Cook, Kincaid, Dawson Knox, Curtis Samuel, Zach Ertz, Terry McLaurin? There's going to be a team out there that has that build, and you're going to have no chance to win. Absolutely 0 chance to win because you have 4 players, or you're just boxed out completely because this guy has 3 more players than you, and you don't have. You just, instead of doing a team like that, you built a team that's very safe. You added Jordan Love on the team. You added Jordan Addison on the team. You added Zay Flowers on the team when you already took a big bet on Buffalo to win. So that with the first pick of the whole draft. So it's just really, you got to really think about the stuff. And it's complicated for sure. It's don't I want to get through the first round? Yeah, you do. But you don't want to build a team too safe that once you get to the end, you just have 0 shot. And that's a big mistake people make. And I know people are going to continue to make it because, people like to play safe, and that's just not the way to play this tournament. You want to play risky, and it's not even that risky. It's okay, well, I took my first pick on Josh Allen. I need to make sure I make a bet on that to happen, or bet on them to make the Super Bowl. If they don't, that team's probably not going to win. That makes sense to me. So here's an example of that. I take Jalen Hurts in the 4th pick of the round on the right side here, the right picture. Took Jalen Hurts in the first round. I take Goddard. I get Gainwell. That's 3 Philadelphia Eagles, right? And I take Baltimore, KC, 2 teams that can't meet until the conference championship at the worst. So that's a good team to build. That if that ends up being the conference championship, it's Baltimore, KC versus Philadelphia and Detroit on the other side. This team's live if it makes it to the Super Bowl with the Eagles, right? So this is a strong team. This is a team that could win the tournament, and I'm not playing too safe. And I'm not playing too risky. This is just a strong team. In the first round, I have Mark Andrews, Goddard, Tylan Wallace, a little bit scary, but I also have Derrick Henry and Kenneth Gainwell. It's not a bad team. It's not great. Obviously, it could be stronger. I have two players on bye on my receiver position, but this is a team that can get through. And obviously, if you wanted to say, okay, well, this team on the right has a lot less chance of getting through than the team on the left. Sure. I don't think it's that much weaker, but it is weaker in terms of first round projection. But this is a team that team on the left makes it to the second round. It's pretty much going to die either in the second or the third round, pretty much guaranteed. If this one on the right gets through the first round, it's stronger, most likely. And if it gets through the next round, it's even stronger. And if it gets to the Super Bowl, it's live, right? So that's like, do I want to make a team on the left that is not going to be live in the Super Bowl, or do I make a team on the right that's going to be live in the Super Bowl if it gets there? I'd rather take that shot every day of the week. So I think people are building too safe. That's one of the biggest mistakes I see. That is mistake number 2, and how to fix it. Don't build too safe. Try to think about the brackets and just build teams that are strong and live for the Super Bowl. That is the most important thing in this tournament. Mistake number 3 I see a lot is people that are building teams that have zero chance to win, which I kind of reiterated in the other mistakes, but it still needs to be said again. People build teams that have zero chance to win. This is an example right here. Absolutely, there's not a single outcome in the playoff bracket that can happen that this team is live to win. This team above me here, Houston. Okay, Houston unstacked. He has Herbert stacked to McConkey, and then on the NFC side he has Barkley solo, Jefferson solo, McLaurin, Robinson, 2 players there. So that's maximum of a 4-player Super Bowl there, and that's not enough to win. And don't you think if it's Herbert versus Daniels in the Super Bowl, don't you think there's going to be a Daniels team with McLaurin and Ertz, and then a team with Vlad McConkey, Dobbins, and I don't know, throw on Quentin Johnston or something? There's going to be a team with that. And even if it's just those 6, that beats you almost every time, or every single time. If you have these 4 guys, every time it'll beat you. Because there's going to be a team with that team plus Zach Ertz plus Quentin Johnson. And all they have to do is score 0.01 points or 0.1 points in the finals, or let alone if Daniels outscores Herbert, then you just lose. You just automatically lose in this scenario. And then in terms of the Stroud stuff, you just have there's no team that can be built with Stroud either. Like, you just have Stroud with unstacked, 2 Washington pieces and 1 Minnesota piece. That's 2 players in the finals or 3 players in the finals. It's not enough at all, not even close. The only time you could be live with 4 players in your final is if you're taking the bye week teams. So I don't mind if you want to do it that way, but otherwise, like if you're playing for like Detroit KC, I like to tack on a 5th guy just so I can have a Super Bowl bet. But even then, like if you take 4, that is the only possible way you might be somewhat live with 4 players in your lineup. Otherwise, you are completely dead on arrival. If it's end up being Chargers Washington, there's going to be a team with like 7 players, 8 players live. That's going to absolutely wipe that 4-player team out. So this is a team that has zero chance to win the tournament. I could look back in 2 weeks from now and I'll just show you the same team and they're not going to win the tournament. I can guarantee you that. They'll probably make it out of the first round, but I guarantee you they're not winning the tournament. And if you want a screenshot after, go for it. This team's not winning. It's not possible. Literally not possible. So that is something that you can't say in regular best ball, but you can say in playoff best ball. So really important to think about the structure of your team. 1 quarterback, 1 receiver, 2 receivers, 1 flex. You take Barkley already early on, right? You could take 1 more running back, maybe a second one, but you're taking Barkley, so you really want Barkley to do good. You really want him to play for a while. You're not betting on him to lose early, right? So it's just, you got to think about that when you're building your team. It's like, maybe I just go solo Barkley. Maybe I go solo Barkley Henry. And it's just, Barkley Henry stop. That's a pretty good team right there. So it's hard to see a reason why Brian Robinson needs to be added to this team. This could have easily been a Philly Baltimore team. And then you just tack on McConkey Herbert. That's a good team. But the fact that it went so wildly different with Pickens, Cooper, McLaurin, it just really got off the rails. Where this team could have been solid if you went Derrick Henry, Barkley, and then added a couple Philly Baltimore pieces, and then you throw, Herbert with McConkey, and then you throw Baker with Evans and Bucky or something. That's a pretty strong team. And that team is very viable to win the tournament as a Tampa Bay Baltimore or a Philadelphia Chargers team. That's super strong. But this team up here just has no shot of winning. And that's really the prizes that you want to win are at the top of the tournament. If you're trying to double your money, there's other options for you. There's straight betting, there's stuff like that. There's just different stuff you could do. It's just not really it's not really the game we're playing. We're not playing a game for min cashing. We're playing a game to try to win the whole entire tournament and make a team that has the best chance of winning it. So, like I said, this team can make it to the next round, but it's really not going to make it far. And it has zero chance to win. If it somehow ends up the finals, it has absolutely zero chance to win. So that is just a problem that people are making a lot. And not to mention that Houston Chargers are playing This guy may not have known that then, but Houston Chargers are playing in the first round, so you're losing a quarterback right off the rip as well. So it's just really smart to think about things that you're doing and try to build a team that has a chance to win. Big mistake people make is building a team with absolutely zero chance to win. This one is the fourth mistake people are making, is not paying attention to other drafters in your room. This one's a little complicated, and I think it's like something that people should definitely think about, especially if you're making a portfolio, which I do suggest. Like, no matter what your bankroll is, if you could do like 20 teams, it's definitely nice. It's definitely a lot better than doing one, because you want to be able to cover a lot of outcomes if you can. So it's like, okay, well, if it ends up being Chiefs and Eagles, I want to at least have one Chiefs-Eagles team, right? So that's something I would suggest. Obviously, do what you do within your means, all that stuff. But either way, I think thinking about the other drafters in your room is a good way to make stronger teams. And if you don't want to pay attention to them, you don't have to, but you're just going to make weaker teams overall in the long run. So I think just the way to kind of to put this simple is like, if you see a drafter in your room that's doing crazy stuff, you see that they built a team like the last mistake I showed. They're building a team with no correlation. They're not really stacking anything. They're just kind of picking players willy-nilly. Maybe I should probably just grab my quarterback and like, oh, you know what? I have Jefferson. I have Hawkinson. I have Addison. I have Aaron Jones. Let me just grab Darnold now, because I don't want to get this guy to steal my quarterback for no reason, right? Maybe you reach on the quarterback, but let's say you're at the turn and you're picking and you have an Eagle stack. You have Jalen Hurts. You have AJ Brown. That's a 6 stack. And then you have Devonta Smith in the queue, and then a guy with a Lions stack on the turn. He's probably not taking Devonta Smith, right? That's just not a really smart pick for him. He's stacking Lions. He already has Goff and Amon-Ra. Maybe he's going to go deeper than that. Maybe he's going to go with another player after that. Maybe you're like, okay, well, this guy's probably not taking Devonta Smith. I'm going to go ahead and grab an AFC piece that I want. Like, let me get Travis Kelce on this team, right? And then you pick that player. Most likely, if you're looking, if the team at the end is making a pretty smart team, they're probably going to grab, hey, I'm going to grab Jameson Williams, and I'm going to grab myself, Xavier Worthy or something, right? That's probably what's going to happen more often than not. So if you make a team and you can see like, okay, I could probably push this Eagle. If I don't get him, it's fine. I'll just take like Worthy, or I'll take, Goddard, or I'll take someone else. I can think of a different option. I could take Mark Andrews or something, right? But you could probably push the Eagle to the other side of that turn. If you can do it, if you're looking at the team, you have to look at the roster of the other team. If the other person has Barkley, they're probably just going to grab Devonta Smith, right? So in that situation, you might want to take Devonta Smith. So I think just think about it a little bit. You don't have to think too crazy. I think the more you think about it, the stronger player you're going to be. I think it's just super smart to do that. And then you could push Devonta Smith around the turn, and you also get a good AFC piece with that team. That's usually what's going to happen. You're going to get Devonta Smith coming back because the other guy's stacking Lions. So that's something to think about. And then also, like with that Darnold example, like sometimes you're going to get sniped, sometimes you're not. I'll show that in the next mistake. I'll show getting sniped on the Darnold stuff and how I recovered. But it's a lot of times when you take Hawkinson, Addison, Jefferson, and Aaron Jones, no one wants Darnold. No one even wants to touch him. He can probably fall to the 8th round, 9th round, 10th round. And sometimes you're like, okay, I just got to grab him now. There's nothing I'm benefiting from taking someone else other than Darnold. But sometimes you're like, okay, well, I can take Darnold, or I can grab Mark Andrews because he's falls to the 5th round or something like that. Like, oh, I'm taking Mark Andrews right now. And then I'll hopefully get Darnold coming back. Sometimes the opportunity cost isn't quite there, but there's going to be times where you have that Minnesota stack and you can push it all the way to the end of the draft. If you can do that, you're just going to make a stronger team overall. You're going to make teams that are, not as much attained by the field, because a lot of people are just going to grab their quarterback instead of, giving it a chance. And if worst case scenario, if you get sniped on Darnold, you still have outs to win the tournament. It's not as strong, but you still have outs to win the tournament. And if you do get, the Zay Flowers fall, or the Mark Andrews fall, or the Bateman fall, you might have an even stronger team that anyone could even get, because they're grabbing Darnold right away. So fourth thing is not paying attention to other drivers. I think it's super, super smart to pay attention to it. At least think about it. Give it a little bit of thought when you're making your pick at the turn of what that player on the other side of the turn is going to do after you. All right, we've made it to the 5th and final mistake I see players make is they're just playing for the min cash. They're giving up. Some players are playing for the min cash just at the beginning. Some players will be like, oh, I got sniped on my quarterback. I got sniped on Goff. I had a Amon-Ra. and JMO and Gibbs, I'm just going to quit. Like, it's what I'm just going to get my money back. I don't care. I'm going to pick a bunch of random players for random teams. Like, that team's not dead yet. You don't have to go out of your way to just throw the team away, right? And we can talk through that situation just quickly. Like, hey, I have those 3 Detroit guys. I got sniped on Goff. I don't even want to try anymore. I'm just going to take Cortland Sutton, Baker Mayfield. I'm going to throw Rashad Bateman in there. I'm going to throw Addison in. I'm going to throw Marvin Mims in. I'm going to throw J.K. Dobbins. I don't really care what happens. Just get me through the first round, right? You could do that, or you could think like, hey, like, why don't I just start a Charger stack? Why don't I get Lab McConkey and I get Herbert and I get Quinn Johnston, and then I grab, Bucky Irving and Jalen McMillan. Now I have a Chargers Tampa Bay team and a Chargers Detroit team. At least that's live to win the tournament, right? It's better than giving up and just saying, well, I'll get my money back probably, and that's cool with me. Like, at least build that team out. Build the team out, and especially with those Detroit pieces, you could have a super team on your hands if things go your way. So it's just smart to go that route. And obviously, this team right here to the right, I was building a Baltimore Minnesota team. I was trying to push Darnold to the next, to at least the 7th or 8th round. I get sniped. Obviously, you could see I have pretty much every Minnesota piece to that point, other than Hawkinson. But this guy grabs him in 5-3. And you know what? I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to take Addison Bateman. Still going to make my bet on Baltimore, Minnesota, even if I don't have the quarterbacks. And I'm going to grab a AFC and NFC for quarterback and just hope that things work out. Obviously, it's not the perfect team. Like, I'd rather have Baker to Mike Evans if I'm going to take Baker. But this team is live. I mean, if Baltimore makes it through, Minnesota makes it through, and Tampa Bay does as well, and the Chargers do, like, those are all teams that could win in the first round very feasibly. If they all make it through the first round, this team's still pretty strong in the second round, and it might be strong in the third too. So, like, that, this is a team that's live. It could be, there could be an outcome where it's Tampa Bay, Baltimore. Not likely. It could be an outcome where it's Chargers, Minnesota in the finals. Not likely, but it's still possible. And that's really the whole point of this team is, like, this team is fully live to win. It's not perfect. I would rather have Evans, obviously, but it's not a dead team. And it's definitely a way you can build teams that are much more unique too. It's like no one's going to build a Baker team with no Bucks players. Like, I don't think that's smart, but like, there's not going to be many teams that build a Baker team with Andrews, Bateman, likely, because they're either not taking Evans there or they're just not taking Baltimore pieces at a time. So it's like, that's not very common for people to do. And this is just something that happened because I had to build the team from the back. And I was building my team. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get Darnold later, but it didn't work out. So that's what happens sometimes. You just don't get what you want, but you could still build a coherent team that makes sense. You could see Baker throwing a touchdown to Auden, throws a touchdown to McMillan, throws a touchdown to Shepard. And, he doesn't. No one really smashes, but you have these Baltimore pieces that do really well every game, and you just make it to the Super Bowl and have a decent team. Like, you have a team that's live. Like I said, it's not the most likely outcome. I'd rather have Darnold on this team, of course, but sometimes it doesn't work out. It doesn't mean you need to give up and just play the min cash. I think you just need to at least try to make a team. Sometimes you don't have an option. Sometimes you have to go for the min cash, but there's really, honestly, there's no situation where you need to go for the min cash like that. I'll walk that statement back right away. Like, there's always a chance you can make a live team, whether that means you take Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton and Marvin Mims, whatever it ends up being. Like, there's always an option for you. And if there isn't, then take a backup quarterback, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Like, there's really no outcomes where you can't take Jordan Love. You can't take Bo Nix to bail you out at the end. Like, there's just always an option there. So build teams, correlate your players, even if you don't have the quarterback, right? You don't have to, if you don't have Darnold, if you don't have Lamar, it's okay to take a couple more Baltimore pieces. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to have Lamar. There's other quarterbacks that could score points, and if they meet them on the other side of the bracket, it's still a live team, right? Like, Derrick Henry could score 3 touchdowns, Bateman scores 1, and then you have, Andrews has a good game, and then Baker goes off throwing them all to Shepard or something, or Shepard or not, and then no one has those guys, right? So, like, that happens. That happens maybe 5% of the time. If I have a chance to win the tournament, that's all I care about. So I like that outcome. I think it's really fun to just kind of build teams, and you know what, like, this stuff happens, and at least you build a team that's smart and unique. Like, that's the best thing you can get out of it. And that's going to happen from time to time. Sometimes you're going to build a team you don't feel great about, but at least you're going to give yourself a chance as if you don't give up and play for a min cash. So that's another mistake I see people make. Like, don't just give up, like, oh, whatever, I'll get my $10 back. Like, just try to make a team. most likely this team is probably going to get a min cash, but it's like at least I have a chance if it goes farther. Like it could go to second round and have a full team. It can go to third round and have a strong team. It can make it to the finals and still have a live team. Like that's all you should be thinking about in this tournament. It's like, can this make it to the conference championship and still be live? Can this make it to the finals and have a live team? If I'm doing those two things, checking those two boxes every single draft I do, you're going to have a good portfolio of teams. Obviously, things need to break your way. You got to get to the first round. You got to get to the second round. You got to get to the third and get to the finals. It's really hard to do that. But check those boxes off. I want to build a team that's live for the conference championship. I want a team that's live in the finals. You check those two boxes off, you're going to build a strong portfolio. And I think that's the biggest tip I can give you is just build a strong portfolio with teams that are live. Don't worry about the first round so much. Just worry about what you're doing. The only time I worry about the first round is if I'm taking a bunch of Chiefs or a bunch of Detroit players. That's when the first round is the most important thing because you're just trying to get those Detroit and KC pieces through. So I think that's a little bit of a wrinkle there, but that's the only time the first rounder is more important. Otherwise, it means literally nothing. It gives you your min cash back. All that matters is, am I live in the conference championship? Do I have a chance to make it to the finals and have a live team? If I can check those two boxes off, you're going to be golden. So good luck, everybody, in your playoff best ball. I know there's a few days left, but good luck. And this is going to be an evergreen video that you can kind of come back to. And I think you can look at these tips and kind of see what I built and see what I've done and be like, okay, I could have done this. I could repeat this team next year, repeat this team, then the year after that, building, and build teams strong that way. So I think this is a video you come back to and take a look at every year and kind of apply the strategies and the mistakes that people make and try to learn upon them and build teams in the next year and the years to come. So good luck in your playoff best ball. Good luck. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy your fandom, everything like that. And as everything, find value. And as always, find value in everything you do, guys. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out. Good luck.